following episode may contain discussions of sensitive and potentially distressing topics, including but not limited to mental health issues, suicide, death, domestic violence, child abuse, sexual assault, physical violence, and other traumatic experiences. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. This content is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all listeners. The views, opinions, and statements expressed by guests are of their own and not necessarily Burning Bridges podcast. By continuing to listen or view this episode, you acknowledge and accept that the hosts, producers, and associated parties are not liable for any distress, harm, or losses, emotional, psychological, or otherwise, that may result from the content discussed. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you or someone you know is in crisis and needs help now, call 000 within Australia or Lifeline on 131114 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Welcome, Taimana Ackinclose. Thank you for joining us on Burning Bridges podcast.
Thanks for having me, Renee. I'm usually sitting there with you, but I'm on this side. It's our first episode. I'm very excited to get this up and running. It's been a long haul, but here we are doing it now.
No, exciting. Now, you were born and raised in Brisbane. Tell me about that, some of your childhood.
Yes, born in 1975 in Brisbane and raised here. When I was of my mother's Māori, father's English, 7 children, and I'm the third eldest. 2 brothers, the oldest and youngest, and then 4 sisters, 1 older sister, 3 younger sisters. It's I grew up on the north side of Brisbane, and when I was like a toddler, we sort of moved around the house a bit, and then my parents ended up buying a house in Finney Hills area, and done all my primary school years there. And I really, as a kid, I felt out of place, an outcast. In the area we lived, it was a real white area, and we were like Polynesian Māori, and but like I'm fair. So at school and everyone around, I was white, I was black, and to my family I was white. So I just didn't feel as though that I fit in anywhere. And with that, I was bullied a lot because I was a tiny little kid. I got bullied a lot, and I couldn't talk. I had a really bad stutter, and that really crippled me. I had massive anxiety as a kid, not knowing what anxiety is or anything like that. And it just really, to say it crippled me is more so it paralyzed me, as into my learning, my growing, things like that. So I just really hated going to school. Hated it because I couldn't say my name. Going to school, I couldn't even say here or present when they called the roll out. And it just, a lot of things, but when I was like, I don't know, I would have been maybe 3 or 4, I do remember doing a couple speech therapy classes. And but it just stuck with me. I couldn't really talk, and it was hard. I didn't like my name, mainly because Australians couldn't say it, and I couldn't even say it. And I just found it really hard to go to school and learn it. I got to the point is where I'd go into the kitchen and grab some type of food, or I think it was like a pear or something like that, and I'd like just bite on it, and I'll grab it so no one could see me, and then I'll go into my room and I'll like take a bite and mush it up in my mouth, and then run to the toilet and act like I'm throwing up, I'm sick. And then I'd try and stay home from school, and my mum would just make me go to school. I would walk to school crying. I've it, I've never said this before. Okay, yeah, I walked to school and I would headbutt the power poles. I would like softly hit it, and I'd just gradually go harder and harder to bruise my head to stay home. And I'll go back home crying, hoping I had a bruise on my forehead. And I would still get told to go to school. And then that escalated into me from there to WAG school. And I hid under the stairs in the storage, under the stairs in the garage. And I just stayed in there all day. Because my mum was home from work. She worked night shift, so she'd be home during the day. And I just stayed in there all day. And then I just thought I could never do that again, because I was in a confined space, and that was a long time, from say 8 o'clock in the morning till after 3. And that's the extent that I went to avoid going to school. And it was a combination of things that I couldn't talk. The bullying, the homework. I wouldn't do homework because I couldn't do it, didn't know how to do it. I would try and I would attempt to do it, and then I just couldn't do it. I didn't know the answers. I didn't know how to do it. So when I did go to school and I hadn't, and I'd just get in trouble because I hadn't done my homework. And then along with just the stuff, not being able to talk and hard to learn, and I just didn't even like being in a classroom anyway, because I'll just be looking outside and daydreaming and wishing I was outside playing. And then that escalated into me like wagging school and going into a park. And I like hid in these bushes next to the park and just stayed there all day. And at least I had space and I was outside. And I had to like hide because I'd be in my school uniform, and if I was in the park area, if there was someone that saw me, would like, what's this little kid doing sitting around in the park all day? So yeah, I'd just hide in these bushes next to the park all day. And then another time I'd done it, one of my younger sisters was walking to school with me, and I said, I'm not going to school. And I took her down to the park with me, and we both wagged it, sitting in that same bush next to the park.
So this is your primary school, little boy.
It was just so hard not being able to talk properly, not being able to learn. It just, humiliating, even for a kid. So yeah, the only thing I liked was sports. I just love sports. We played sports at school, and I just loved going to school for sports and playtime, and hardly ever had even lunch at school because we'd, if anything, have like a Vegemite sandwich or something like that, and I didn't like any of that type of stuff, so I just wouldn't eat. And then that was like my primary school days. But then at school, I remember them. One kid called me half caste in a to go in a, I can't even say that word.
Derogatory? Oh.
Yeah, that one. And I didn't know what it meant. And I remember going home and asking my mum what a half caste was. And then, they weren't cultural. They had no idea about culture, like in the area I lived in, because it was just all white people. And then I was ashamed of a lot of things even as a kid, because I lived like different worlds. We went to church, and we were Mormons. So I grew up going to church, and I wouldn't tell anyone at school that I went to church because I'd get teased and bullied. Well, so I thought that I would anyway. I got teased and bullied for everything else. And, so I didn't, kids at school never knew what I'd do. Like, I never had friends as in where I would go hang out with them and after school. But I just had one friend that lived a couple doors down from me, and he was like a couple of years older. But that didn't even start good, because when we recently moved into that area, and I would have been probably around 6, I wasn't even in year 1 when we moved there. And I remember we were playing in the backyard, and there was another kid there, and we they had the old fire barbecues, and we lit the fire in the barbecue, and they used to always have these iron rods to move the wood around in the fire, and we had that in there to heat it up. Well, they did. Then they started chasing me around the backyard with it, and I was like screaming. And then they sort of called me up against the back fence, and they were like probing me with it, like I was like cattle, branding me. And I was just screaming. I didn't get any scars or anything like that from it, but it was like a terrifying experience that I was, these two kids were doing that to me. And then I was able to just run out and run home.
So that was even before you were in grade 1?
Yeah. And then there was this time where these other kids who lived a few doors down, and I would have been I reckon I was in grade 7 then, and I was just at their house, and then there were like 4 or 5 boys in that family, and there was one a bit younger than me, like a couple of years younger. The rest were all older, and I went to leave, and they were just asking me if I can fight. And I was like, no, like this. And then they were trying to tell me to fight the youngest brother. And I didn't want to fight. And then I tried to get up and walk out, and they blocked my path to the front door of the house. And they just said, you're fighting. You're going to fight. Go out the backyard now. So they took me out the backyard, and they were like telling me to fight the younger brother, and obviously the younger brother was made to fight too. But he wanted to fight. I could see it. He wanted to fight. And then he just hit me. And then I'm just like getting into this fight to, defend myself, protect myself, and try and get it over him. And then that sort of finished, and then just went home. And I think in a way the older brothers had a bit more like respect for me, like they never bullied or anything like that again to me than boys. But that kid, I remember going to school, and the next day he was going around telling everyone that he beat me up, he bashed me, and I was just like, oh, it's easy to beat someone up, and there's four brothers there. When I got into the higher grades, because I was good at sports, they seemed to like me for that. So I got less, as I got older, I didn't get bullied as much from the kids at school because I was good at sports and I was a fast runner and everything like that. Our whole family was. Like on the athletics day, you'd always hear our last name getting called over the speaker because all my other siblings were winning their races and their events. So it was just things where our family were good at sports and athletics. So yeah, like that's probably a good thing. Like as I got into the, years 6 and 7 type thing, I didn't get bullied as much at school because I was just good at sports. And from a young kid, I was someone that never liked people being bullied. And I remember this one time at school, we just finished playing a soccer game against another school. And we're walking up from the oval and going to get a drink of water or something. And there was a few other boys, and they were just like hidden into this other kid. So I was just going in and I started punching into these other kids to help the kid that was getting beaten up. I didn't even know what it was over, but I just saw that it wasn't fair. And then me and one of the other boys that was bashing the other kid got sent to the office and got the cane for getting into a fight. But then that kid was, after a fight, then it's like your mates. That was like how I started getting into fights and stuff. But I never looked for it. I just didn't like seeing people getting bullied because of what. But then it never even stopped at school. It was other people that like older family members and things like that. They'll do things as like pick me up from my feet, so I'm upside down, and someone would like track pants, open the track pants and put me down their pants, my head down their pants. Just shit like that. Wedgies. Doing wedgies too. And just like pick me fully up in the air because I was so light. And I'll be just screaming and crying, trying to get them to put me down. And they're all just laughing. And then so when I sort of got older and got some size about me, it's just like I just didn't want to take any shit. I had the size to really defend myself, and then people wouldn't really try and mess with me anyway because I just had this like look about me. Like, I was like an angry look.
Tell us about church. You were brought up in the Mormon church. What was that like?
When you're brought up in the church, it's just, you make friends, obviously. And I was brought up with my cousins, like very close. They were like my brothers and sisters. And there was 8 of them, and we all went to church together, so always had them as well. And then the other kids at church. And then it was just, you were just brought up in the Mormon way, like just having to go to church every Sunday, not allowed to swear, no alcohol, no coffee, and just very strict religious way. And there's a lot of things we weren't allowed to do. You can't go swimming on a Sunday. It's a Sabbath day, Sunday's Sabbath day, and just things like that, just living to the church sort of ways. We just brought up through that, and then, as you get older into the church, it becomes fun because there was Mormons are big in basketball, and we ended up being basketball, so that was a big thing in the church. We all just loved playing basketball, so that was the thing. And then, we done multiculture. So I started doing, kapaka probably when I was about 6, 7, more probably 7 years old. And, my auntie, she was the one that taught us. So they're part Cook Island. My cousins, their biological fathers was Cook Islander, and so we'd do Polynesian dancing, like Tahitian, Cook Island, Samoan slap dance. So we'd just raised doing all these. So we'd go to we'd perform doing these shows, and then go into the competitions. And my grandparents moved over when I was probably around 6, and they moved over from New Zealand. And my grandfather was a kamatua back home, and then when he come here to Australia, he was a kamatua of Brisbane, which is leader, chief, high sort of regarded elder in the community, in the Māori community. And they would always, so when you have things with Māoris, he'd get up on the pipe, he'll be on the paipai and do a whakororo, which is they're speaking on behalf, representing their people. So that's what my grandfather was, and so I was around it. We lived it here in Australia. We were raised that way in the Māori ways, learning our culture, learning the language somewhat, not fluently, but just all the basics and that you need to know. And the protocols of being on a marae, because we had a marae, which was just an old church, and we used to practice there. We had practices there, and it was pretty full on. Our practices were, military style. So there were things we'd have to do with the haka, when the boys and the men would all group up and we'll be learning the haka. And for example, there's one where you had to jump up in the air and you would have a rako, which is a taiha, a stick, and you're making these movements like that as you're jumping. And then the kaya, which is the leader, he'll be coming and swooping a rako under our legs. So if you're out of time, you get hit with the rako, and you just be nervous as he's coming to you. And then like a couple of times I got whacked being out of time and just hit the ground, and you get up crying, and then you're getting in trouble for being out of time. So you learn to get in time pretty quick, getting hit. Other things we'd do was, pukana. We'd have to face off with another male. Could be another boy, because I was only a kid, or could be a grown man, and you're doing pukanas at each other. And you're like, they're going, bah! Like this, and it's like the fierce, you have to outbeat them doing being fierce. And, obviously you just start laughing, and then next thing you're just getting whacked. So that laugh turns into a cry because you're getting whacked from the car from behind. But it was fun too. Like, where there's other kids there, you get to meet other kids and you're playing, and there's just a good group, of Māori people. And so those were good days, but then it was sort of hard too, because my first time going to a tangi, the marae would be a tangi, which is a funeral, and in our culture, our tradition is to have the body there for 3 days, and you sleep around the body in the coffin. And when I was 12 on the first time I went to a tangi, and I didn't know the person who had passed away, and I just remember being scared. I was scared for years after that, after seeing a dead body. And then in that year when I was 12, I went to three tangis. There's that one, and then we had an uncle who was a leader of our group, and sadly he took his own life. And then after that got even worse. That one of my best friends, he was a year younger than me, and so he would have been 11, and he died. And that was really hard on especially his family, man. Like, we were there, and just to see that, and so sad at what people go through. Losing a young child, young brother, so young. And yeah, we were good mates. I used to go stay at his house, and at the time, they used to live across the road from the marae where we used to practice, and I would stay there on weekends with him, and we'd play, and it was so good because he had all heaps of toys that I'd never had, and his parents would like take us down to the pools and go swimming, and so and then when he passed away, he died. I was asked to speak at his tangi, so I was 12 and spoke at his tangi, and that was obviously still hard because I can't talk properly. My grandfather helped me with the speech, what to say. Very, very, moments like that, experiences, and just, I always think of him, again, to this day, and not just him, his family. Yeah. That was like, my Māori culture. We just, grew up doing that.
You were telling me that you did shows.
Mm.
Did you travel much? Yeah,
there'll be, competitions every year, and we'll go down to like Melbourne and Sydney. Each year will be different places, So, we'll be on a coach bus, and the whole group, there'll be probably even a couple buses, I think, because there's heaps of us. And on a road trip down to Sydney on a bus, and they were good times, you know, just us kids in the back of the bus. And just, yeah, you know, Māoris, they just be in the bus, guitar, and everyone's singing the Māori waiata, and it was good. And but yeah, our practices were so hard. Like, we would, leading into the comps, it would be like a good month into it, at least 2 months even. We'd be at the marae or even at my auntie's house, sleepovers, and it's just practice all weekend. And we'll practice till like 10 o'clock at night, be up in the morning, have breakfast, and then we'll be into practicing, learning the words, learning the actions, and just, yeah, drum. Everything's got to be in sequence, military style, in sequence. If anyone was out of time, reps, is all reps, doing it over and over and over again. And there was a lot of crying, a lot of fighting, a lot of frustrations, of long hours of just young kids having to practice like that. But then it was also fun because we'd have breaks, and then I remember, yeah, just breaks to break it up and us kids just play and have fun for a bit. But then it's back to business. Yeah.
So going back to when you were a kid, you're a big sports person. What was the first sports that you played?
Soccer. I used to, yeah, soccer. I started when I was like a toddler, pretty much. And back then we lived in Sanford, out on a farm, and I played for the Sanford Rangers, and I played for them for my whole time. I played soccer a good 10 years for club, and I loved soccer, man. I loved it. Anything I'd done, I lived and breathed it. And yeah, I just, you know, I wish I stuck to it because I was good size for soccer, because I was, you know, although I was short, I was quick, I was fit, I was fast, you know, so, but yeah. Soccer, then went to basketball, because even then I got bullied from my family playing soccer. That's a girl sport. That's a pufta sport. You're a girl. And that was the main reason why I ended up quitting, because I was just getting teased too much. So, yeah, but then that was when I stopped playing, when I went into high school, and I started playing basketball. Yeah.
Tell me what your relationship was like with your parents.
My parents, obviously, when you're young, it was normal. But then, so my mum was good, you know. I always loved mum, but, you know, both my parents were hard workers. My dad was a builder, carpenter, and mum would do admin work. She used to do like switchboard operator in the city. So because they worked, we were at home alone a lot, and we're having to do chores around the house and cook dinners. And so by the time they got home, dinner was cooked for them. So us older kids, the older ones, we were like looking after the younger ones and bathing them and cooking dinners, and so everything was pretty much done by the time our parents got home from work. And then as a kid, those things was like weird with my dad, and I just had the sense that, I don't know, I just not right. But he was the one that he'll take me to my soccer trainings and all that. So it'd be like a good half-hour drive out to Sanford, and so he was the one taking me to my soccer training. So I had, you know, time with him with like that, and I enjoyed those moments. Just because he'd let me, like, I'd always ask if I could drive. which is just steer. Like I'll lean over and just start steering. Yeah, in the country, I think. So I just things like that. And Dad would take us like on. I do remember a couple times with I think my brothers might have been, and we went on camping trips. And just we'd borrow things from the scouts from our church, and then because with the church of scouts, so I think he must have borrowed it from there or somewhere like canoes, and we were on the river canoeing and just so that seemed fun as a kid. But the relationship, I just sensed that things weren't right, and as the years got on, I end up pretty much like hating my dad. Didn't like him. He used to beat into us like as a kid, and we get hidings or whatever you want to call it, hidings, bashings. He was short-tempered. We would be out playing, and kids out playing always ends up in a fight, arguing, screaming, and then so he'll just come running out to whoever was the nearest person he got to, and just start kicking them. And like it wasn't just me all the time; it was just whoever. And he'll just kick you all the way inside, up the arse, literally on your ass, kicking into you, and you're like running, blocking it with your hand behind you, your kicks, and then you would be running into the house, and then he'd just be like booting into you, and then he'd sort of like grab hold of you to go up the stairs and be like dragging you up the stairs, and once you got to the top, then he's kicking into you again all the way into the room. And like things like that, and then just like the belt. Like everyone got the belt as a kid, but it was just even that was like daunting because there'll be what we'd do, whoever's in trouble, and then you'll tell someone else to go get the belt. So go into his room, grab the belt, and for some stupid reason, I don't know who started it, but the kids, us kids, even me, we'd be walking up the hallway, bang, snapping the belt, making that slap noise. And when you're the one about to get hit with the belt, you're already crying because you can hear that belt coming. And Dad, you hand the belt to Dad, and next, whack. Sometimes it'd be on the hand, and then like you go like that, move your hand away, and then you got it even worse. You just whack, whack, and then up the arse, whack, whack with the belt. And just you'd have welches on you. Sometimes I couldn't sit down for days, and I'll be in my room crying for hours. And just, he was short-tempered. And my dad had a stutter too. And then there was just things that I just didn't like about him. He's been brought up in the Māori ways. Just when you go to eat, it's always, children first, then the woman, then the men last. And every time there was food around, and he would be the first one there. He wouldn't wait for anyone. And I just used to look at him like, you're a rude dickhead. Like, can't wait. Even when we had dinners, he was so demanding. Like, we'd cook the dinners and we'd all sit down at the table, and straight away he'd be the first one there, and he'd be like, where's the salt and pepper, in his English accent, his proper Pom accent. And he'll be demanding this and that if there's something that wasn't on the table. And it was never like a thank you for doing this, thank you for that. It was just demanding. And I just things like that I just hated seeing. Along, then with the hidings and all that.
What age were you when they ended your hidings?
I remember the day. I was 16, and we were living in this other house, and by then we were living in Wavell and Wavell Heights, and I had a bedroom downstairs and I shared it with my youngest brother, and I used to have like a gym set, weights, bench press and all that, and just do my training in my room, and I was pretty clean. I kept my room clean all the time, and anyway, having a younger brother in there, being messy, this and that, and I'm just asking him to clean up and sweep the stairs that went into our bedroom downstairs, and youngest brother, nah, I'm not doing that, nah. And then next thing I'm getting up him, and I'm like dragging him and forcing him to clean up. And then as I'm doing that, I was actually sort of standing on the landing of the stairs halfway down. And then my dad sort of come down. I could see him coming down, but I didn't expect what he was going to do. He ended up just punching me in the head. Yeah, and when he punched me in the head, I know, I just straight away, I just like stormed outside, and I went up. I was just like punching into the garage wall. And then at that moment, I'm like, what am I doing? I should be punching into him, not this wall. So I went back inside, and he was in his room, and I just went for him. And he like backed up, and he was like, and I'm like, come on. Because he's sitting laying like on his bed, I think it was. And I'm like, come on, let's go. Hit me when I'm looking at you, when I'm ready for it. Come on, let's go. And he wouldn't fight me. And that was the last time he ever hit me. Yeah. So I was just, for me growing up, like bashings from other people or anything was nothing. I just didn't care because I've been bashed before numerous times. So for me, it was just like I had this, in a way, like a chip on my shoulder. I wasn't scared of getting into fights, and even if I lost, it didn't bother me. I think they're the worst type of people to get in fights with because they just don't care whether they'll keep coming, even if they can't fight. Well, I can't fight. I wouldn't say I was a good fighter or nothing.
You just had no fear.
Mm.
What was an outlet that you had?
Well, football, rugby league. I played that when I got older. I was never allowed to play it when I was a kid. I went because my neighbourhood friend played rugby league, and I remember a couple of times I went and watched him play, and I'd play in the yard with him sometimes because he played it. And I'd always ask my parents to play, but they said, no, that's too rough. Too rough, but I'll bash you. Right.
Really? Is that the reason why they didn't want you to play?
I remember them saying it's too rough. But yeah, you used to get the bashings. And not just me, all of us. But yeah. Like I was a crazy kid. I mean, like full on, like no fear. I got hit by a car 3 times. Numerous times I should have died. I fell out of a moving car when I was I was probably around 2 years old. Fell out of playing with the door handle and fell out of the car. And just being hit by cars on my push bike, just like, because our driveway was on a hill, and I'll go down the driveway straight on the road, and our road was on a hill. So I'd come down, and then I'll just whack straight into a car. I was just 3 times. Didn't even learn by the first time to be careful. Yeah, I was a big thing when I was a kid, and then like I had another accident when I was, I would have been around 11 or so, and I went on the scouts. I was doing scouts and went on a scout camp to Stradbroke Island, and anyway, we're over there, and we went down this cliff to go into these rock pools, And then I'm in the rock pool under the water. There's a couple of us in there. Then I heard all this yelling from underwater. And then I popped up, and then this massive big wave had come over to the rock pool and just like took me under and just smashed me up against all the rocks. And it sort of like, it took me underneath in a tunnel. And it just, I remember I held on to the rock underwater. I'm in this tunnel and I'm like holding on to it. And would have only been a split second, 2 seconds at most. And then I just thought, I need to let go. So I let go and it took me out the other end. And yeah, I ended up getting out and I was just like cut up from head to toe from the rocks, being just smashed like a washing machine, just smashed around underneath. And then I passed out and I had to climb up the cliff to get back out. And then, I passed out, fainted halfway up, got to the top, fainted. And then anyway, I got back to I got to the hospital and my parents had been away that weekend and my grandfather come to the hospital and I remember like sitting in a chair in this like little cubicle with the doctor and my grandfather. And I was sitting there and the room was just spinning. I could like literally see it spinning. And then next thing I'm waking up on the bed and I'm like, I straight away open my eyes and I'm like, where am I? And I noticed my grandfather had his hands on my head and he was, giving me a blessing, praying. And I just went back to his house and I stayed at his house for like a couple of weeks at least, just laying on this little bed out in the lounge room because I couldn't sit down. I could only like just stand up or lay down because the movement of all the cuts and on my joints would just crack it open. So I just had to stay still. And I've been beaten up by a lot of things. But yeah, it didn't get me.
You went through a lot as a kid. Who was someone that you looked up to?
My grandfather. He was the one for me. I was very close to him. And he was such a loving man, very kind, loving man. And I learnt more about him when he had passed away, when I went over to New Zealand, and just how the uncles and aunties, everyone over there, how they spoke so highly of him. And because I was his grandson, they really took care of me just because of who things. So those old people in New Zealand now that are still around, and when I go back and they just show me so much love just because from my grandfather, and that how even more of a special man he was for what he done for the people back there in the pa. He really looked after people. Yeah.
And what's a special memory that you have of him?
I used to do a lot for my grandfather, and I used to go just mow his lawns and things like that. And my grandfather I think he really taught me, and not just me, all us grandchildren. He taught us about service and love. And I remember him telling me this often, is service. Give service with love without expecting anything from it. And those are his words, give service with love. And I think he was also, manipulating me too. When he'd ask me to mow his lawn, and then next thing he's saying, can you mow their lawn and their lawn? So I'm there mowing 3 lawns in one day and doing it for service, for love, and saying not getting any money for it. And I'm like, oh, okay, you got me there, Granddad. But and when he was sick and because he was diabetic and had all these other health issues and heart problems, and when he was getting on, and he'd be in hospital, and I'd ride my bike up to his place to grab things from Nan to take up to the hospital, and I'll take it up and I'll sit up there with him for like a couple of hours. And he was he was a special man, and all us grandchildren really, really loved him, and our Nan too. She was a special lady, and she was quiet, very quiet all the time. But Granddad really, there's a lot of things he favoured me a lot. Favoured me a lot. He used to call me Squirt, and he used to teach us Te Reo Māori because he was a kamatua of the Brisbane Māori people. When he moved over here, he became our kamatua, and he was that back home too. And kamatua is chief leader of our community, where you get up and talk and things like that in Māori. And he tried to teach my cousins and myself Te Reo Māori because he wanted to obviously pass that torch on. I got a cousin back home cousins back home are like fluent Te Reo Māori and speaking the marae and all that, but us Aussie ones, couldn't do it, couldn't learn it. I think my cousins, they were hoha, and they could pick it up, but I don't know, they just didn't do it. And then Granddad, I was the last one in line because obviously I could hardly talk and wasn't a quick learner. But he tried to teach me, but I couldn't pick it up. Not very good. But and then when he was really sick, he was in intensive care, and all us would go up to the intensive care and sing some waiata for him. And then I remember this occasion, we were walking out and I got called back in to see him, and he asked me, because this is when he was dying, and he asked me to represent him to when we take his body back to New Zealand, and said he wanted me to go back and represent him. And his words were like, when I obviously said, yeah, it would be an honour. And he said, but there's a catch. And I said, oh, yeah, what? And he said, oh, you've got to speak on my behalf back home in New Zealand. And that's a massive honour. So, I went back for his tangi when he passed away, and that was the first time. I was 14 then, and that was the first time I got to go back to New Zealand and see the culture, the marae, the real carving maraes, and the meet family there, cousins I had there for the first time, and aunties and uncles, and I just really loved it there. Being there with that and seeing all the cultural things and stuff like that, it was good. And then I used to stay in Palmerston North with an uncle there, with my cousins there, and they sort of ran a foster home, and it was a nice big property in Palmerston North. And whenever I went back to sort of New Zealand, I'd stay there with them. And I remember this time where one of the foster kids, obviously mates with street kids and that, and we were in the town one day, and we caught up with some of these street kids, so to speak. And anyway, they were like tapping this phone, like in the phone booth, and tapping the phone and making calls without putting money in it. And I sort of like learned how to do that, and I was like, oh, okay. And then and just even my cousin, man, when I cruised around with her, everyone knew her, and you couldn't walk 5 meters without her being stopped talking to people in Palmerston North. And I just really loved her and my family there. So every time I go back, I stay with her, my cuz there, and
And
yeah,
where's your marae?
Porirua, Porirua, the pa down there, Ngāti Toa, Rangatira Te Iwi, and that's my iwi, and also from Nelson, Ngāti Kowata in Nelson. So it sort of spreads out, and then to French Pass, Derval Island, and we had the opportunity when we went back the year after for my grandfather's unveiling, and we had after my grandfather's unveiling, we went to the French Pass on the South Island, and there was a family reunion. And, oh man, I loved it. It was so cool. All the family there, like I never met before, and all my other family there from Aussie, and we got to go to Derval Island where that's goes way back in the ancestors of my great grandmother. And just things like that. Got to see and experience that. But I was actually on the island. Sorry, I was on the island the year before when I was there for my grandfather's tangi, because I went travelling around with my nan, and I actually stayed on Derval Island for 2 weeks there with her and all these old people. And all my craziness, like I had an accident. I was there and I sliced my hand open, playing with these other kids, and this rock sliced my hand open. So I had stitches in my hand. And Derval Island is just, there's the ocean there too, and I couldn't even swim because I had my stitches. But that was cool. I just I remember my aunties on Derval Island there in the house, and we had fish and fish heads for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I loved it, and they loved me because I was like loving the fish and the fish heads. And so that was a bit of time there in New Zealand, and then the year after we got to go back there for the family reunion we had there, and that was so cool. So my grandfather, that would have been 1990, because my grandfather passed away in 1989, and then we had the reunion in 1990. And there's probably a story that I'll go in the future about that place, the French Pass, and family reunion. But anyway, and then a bit of a story I'd like to share is that after that family reunion, like all my family from Aussie, we all went back to Australia, but I stayed. And so because I wanted to stay, and I wanted to go to church college, and so I was hoping to go to church college in Hamilton. And then anyway, so when I stayed, and my cousin used my ticket to fly back to Australia here. Anyway, so I've gone up to Waitangi for Waitangi Day with my nan, and we've jumped on the Ngāti Toa bus to go up there because they had all the wakas, rowing the wakas up there, because the Queen was there for that event, that thing. And so anyway, I was on this bus with all these people, and I didn't know any of them. And then and straight away I'm an outcast with them because I'm Aussie, and these are people that have been, I don't know, selected or whatever, chosen to jump on this, be on the waka and row the waka, which is a great honour to be able to do that. And anyway, so I've heading up there, and this was an awesome experience where I was asleep on the bus, and I heard all these concha shells going off, and I was looked out in the window, and there's all these towers, probably about maybe 40 meters apart, and you got so when we're driving in, there's the ocean on the right, and then on the left, and then all these conchas were going off, and I was just like, wow. And then where the beach is on the right, there's all these wakas. Some wakas on the beach, some are out on the ocean, and they've been guarded 24/7. So there's all these big Māori men with their taihas standing by the wakas, and it's just like protecting them, so you weren't allowed to touch the wakas or anything like that. And yeah, so that was another awesome cultural experience I got to have, being up there, doing that. And then after Waitangi up there, and my nan ended up saying to me, "Oh, I'm going to go back to Hamilton with these old people. There's this auntie, go and ask her to get a lift back to I think Hamilton, or she lived in Auckland. So I think Auckland, and then they're going to put me on a bus or something like that. I can't. But anyway, and I didn't even know this auntie, so I'm having to go up to an auntie I didn't even know. Oh, can I have a lift with you? And then anyway, so I got in the car and we're driving to Auckland, and her car breaks down just outside of Auckland. So I'm stuck in Auckland for like a night or so, and then the next day I get put on a bus to go down to Hamilton. And then I get to Hamilton, and then my nan had left Hamilton and was in Palmerston North. So I stayed in Hamilton for maybe a night or so, 2 nights. I think it was a couple of nights, and then they put me on a bus to go down to Palmerston North. And then so I'm on the bus breaks down. So I got into Palmerston North late. And when I got into Palmerston North, it would have been around midnight. And I got off the bus, and I have no money, and there's no one there to pick me up. And I'm like sitting around for half an hour hoping that someone will come. No one came. And then luckily, these street kids had taught me how to tap a phone. So I've gone up to this phone booth and I've tapped the phone to ring my auntie's house and uncle's house, and then, yeah, my cousin come and pick me up. That's pretty out of it. And then, so for some reason, I was meant to be there with these street kids to learn how to tap a phone.
A year later.
Yeah, and a year later, I'm there and I'm tapping the phone. So I'm like stuck there in the middle of the night in Palmerston North, 15-year-old kid. And then we get back to the house, and my nan had left Palmerston North and was down in the pa, Porirua. I'm like, man, I'm chasing my nan all around the countryside. She can't even wait for me. What's going on? She must really hate me or something. Far out. And then, I get down to Porirua the next day in the pa, and my aunties and uncles there, and the next day I'm on the plane flying back to Australia. But yeah, that was a pretty wicked experience there, tripping around the countryside of New Zealand as a young teenager. Yeah, and then so just a bit of I'm gonna jump some decades now, because we had that family reunion in 1990, and then I organised a family reunion because I want to bring that back to life, that reunion. So I organised a reunion in the French Pass to go visit D'Urville Island for all my children and my nephews and nieces and those that haven't experienced New Zealand to see the French Pass in D'Urville Island. So I had organised with other family members, uncles, and we 2-year planning for this reunion, organise everything. And French Pass in D'Urville Island is remote. So there's no shops, nothing down there. So you've got to organise buses to get down there, and it's like dirt road. Part of it's dirt road and it's cliff and all this. It's like a dangerous road. If the weather's not right, you can't drive there or drive out of there. And then, so I've organised this for 2 years, planned it. Stay in the marae in Nelson and for a night, and then we get a bus to take us down the French Pass, and we and all that. So I planned that, and then anyway, come 2020 was a reunion. And what was in 2020? COVID. So I got on the last flight out of Brisbane to Auckland before you had to be locked down in a hotel.
Quarantine.
Yeah, quarantine, lockdown, same thing.
Yeah.
Quarantine in a hotel for 2 weeks. So as soon as I landed in Auckland, I cancelled it because there's no one that can fly in from Australia or wherever for it. So I cancelled it. But we had family from my cousins and auntie and that from Perth that were already over there for the reunion. And then, and my brother and his family were there too. So anyway, we made a makeshift reunion for the family that were there, but we just had to alternate and change the plans. Couldn't stay in the marae, so we just got the Airbnb house and all that. But yeah, like I want to replicate that reunion from 1990 in 2020. But it didn't happen, but it did for those that were there. So yeah, that's
a lot of planning for 2 years and then good old COVID.
Yeah.
Maybe got to plan it another 10.
Oh, that was a headache. I'll never do that again. No. If I'm gonna plan a family reunion ever again, it's gonna be where there's
in the city.
Civilization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a father of 4. Tell me about fatherhood.
So like I was 18 when we had our first son, and I was 24 and had 4 kids, and I've got 2 boys and 2 girls. My boys are the oldest and youngest, and the 2 girls are only 13 months apart. They're in the middle, and like when my oldest son was 4, he was diagnosed with a bone disease, and the bone disease was called Ollie's disease, which now is decades later, they say, oh no, it's not Ollie's, it's called fibrodysplasia. So, but there's no difference really. But anyway, and the first time because he just couldn't walk, he wouldn't get up and walk. The GP said could possibly be cancer. So when we were up at the hospital, he was good 4 or 5 days of being up there, wondering while they're doing the test, finding out what it is, and end up being the Ollie's disease, what they said then, and he's prone to fractures in his bones, and apparently it's riddled in his joints, and the main area that gets affected is his hips. And so when he was in hospital, he'll be in traction, so his leg would be to like this rope, and it'd be at a 45-degree angle, and you'd have to stay like that for 6 weeks in the hospital. So he can't leave the bed. He's confined to the bed. And that was from the age of 4, and all his primary school ages, he had difficulties in and out of hospital with surgeries and breaks. And when he'll come out of hospital, he'll be in a hip spiker. And the hip spiker would come up to his chest, and down one side of the leg where the fracture was, it'll go down to his ankle, and the other side to his knee. So he could only stand up or lay down. He couldn't sit like this when he was in this hip spiker plus, the sore plus. And then he'll be in that for at least 4 weeks coming out of hospital. And it's very challenging juggling up and down the hospital, and when you got younger kids too, and then but we had the help of other family members here and there to like give us a bit of time away from the hospital. But that was hard. That was hard as a family, dealing with that, and feeling helpless, because you don't want to see any child go through any type of pain. But I always had the mindset, because being up at the hospital in the children's ward, and you'd see all these other families and other it's just seen that, like accidents where kids have got brain damage from an accident, and just knowing that our son's going to get to leave the hospital and will walk again and this and that, but these other families aren't going to have the opportunity with their child. So that made me grateful and thankful for what I had, for what we had. And so that's why I never like went into depressed mode, because I'd always feel grateful that we got to leave the hospital. And then when you get home as a family again, the things you take for granted, just sitting down at the dinner table as a family and having dinner without having it up the hospital, things like that. So, and it was so, seeing your kid there like that. And he's got that disease to this day. He's now 31. But yeah, it's a daily just thing for him. He's just in pain. He feels it every day. And
so he'll have that for the rest of his life?
Yeah, the rest of his life he has that. You know, when you're out and about, I just remember, you get all the looks from people because he's this little kid in a hip spiker and it's different. But I'd play with him. I'd have him up on my shoulder as we're walking through the shops. And, I'm like, you're Superman, because there's plus would be like red, whole red. And I'll be like, be Superman. And I'd be carrying him like this. And he's like, arm out like this. I'm like flying them around. And there's like people like just walking past and they're just smiling and thinking, feeling empathy or whatever. I could see it in their eyes. And I never really want to put them up in cotton wool because I didn't want them to have that mentality of why me and feel sorry for himself. And my uncle, when I was growing up, my uncle had spina
bifida.
That's it. Spina bifida. Okay, thank you. Spina bifida. Yeah, so my uncle has that. And so I grew up with him and then, crutches and then wheelchairs and things like that. So, and he was a hard man, still is to this day. If he said that he couldn't do something, he'd prove you wrong. He'd do it just to piss you off type thing. Like no one tells me I can't do something just because I'm in a wheelchair or I'm on crutches. So he's a very hard-headed man in a good way, very determined. And that's what I sort of wanted for my son, to have that toughness mindset. And, yep. He's that, all right. So, yeah, because he couldn't play sports, like obviously because we were into rugby league and my youngest boy played rugby league and I'd coach him with that, and my oldest son would feel left out, like not part of it, because I'm bonding with my other son through football, and I think my oldest felt left out, but I bonded with him in other ways, like playing computer games and things like that. So we had a bad experience that happened with my son with his bone disease, that we end up, long story short, sort of thing, through a radio station, he got to go to Harry Potter to watch the premiere, and then straight on the same day, we had to head up to Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. So we're at the Gold Coast, having to go up to Suncorp Stadium to watch the Broncos, and he was going to get a meet and greet there with the players as well. Anyway, so after the Harry Potter movie, my two sons and my nephew were walking to the car and going to the car park and the curb. My son's, as he stepped from the curb down onto the car park bit, he's fallen and snapped his femur, compound fracture. And straight away you could see his genes it was like there was a ball inside his jeans. It was just big bulge. That was the bone. And yeah, that was so tough to see your son in so much pain that like I picked him up and I'm sitting on this bench with him laying on me, and I'm just trying to really comfort him and waiting for the ambulance to arrive, and he's like telling me that he's going to die. He's dying. And that was hard for your son. To be in that much pain. And you can't do anything. That he actually thinks that he's dying. And then got to the hospital in Gold Coast there, and because he's got a specialist and everyone up in Brisbane hospital, and we were in that Gold Coast hospital for 7 days, and it was 7 days of him screaming in pain. Because, as I said before, his traction would be at a 45-degree angle. In the Gold Coast, they had his leg in a 90-degree angle like that, where it can't heal. And I think we tried to tell the doctors and nurses that that's not how it's normally at. And they just wouldn't listen to us. And the nurse was even rude to him, to our son, just saying, you need to stop being a sook. We can't give any more morphine. And then finally we got our specialist from up here to send a transport ambulance to get him back up to Brisbane hospital. And once he got up there, it was a lot better. And like, that's just the experience it was at the Gold Coast. You know, I'm not saying that that's what it's like now or that's how it is, or that was just at that time. It was just terrible for my son going through that pain. Just having your son have a disability, and you always, and you got other kids, and like a lot of attention goes to the kid that's going through that tough time as well, like at that time. And obviously there's, my Tahoe would have loved to be able to play sports and this and that and not have that disease. But yeah, like it affects everyone. Obviously affected his younger sisters and brother, and he's a tough kid. But he was like, as I was saying, he ended up being pretty stubborn. He because we were heavily involved in rugby league, he wanted to play, and so with the school, he was like an assistant coach to his primary school team, and his teacher in school was he was a football coach, and he's such a great man. He really loved Tahoe. Because I used to help coach that school team as well, and along with another father. And anyway, we arranged so Tahoe could have a game that he goes at hooker, so he's just passing the ball and he's not going to be running and getting tackled or tackling. And then as soon as there's a changeover when we're defending, we'll get him off the field. So we got to play and and do that. And then next thing, he's playing again. It wasn't just that one game. And then he's getting that courage and taking the scoot out of dummy half and running that ball and getting tackled. And you're just like, no.
Giving you a heart attack.
Yeah, like I remember his coach running on the field like, stop the game. He's going to come off. Oh, and then, yeah, just things like that. He was determined to like get in there and really play it. So yeah, he's a tough kid, tough man, and and then same thing. He ended up playing basketball too, and basketball's probably even worse because you're jumping and the compact of landing and stuff like that. So I even took up playing basketball, and then I actually put him in boxing to strengthen up his muscles to help his bones. And anyway, then next thing he's like literally in the ring, boxing, fighting, amateur fighting. And this is when he got older. Obviously, I never let him do any of that. So when he got older and I had no control of what he can and can't do, he's gone off and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. So yeah, he's in the ring and he was fighting and he done well. Like he got to go to Tahiti and fight over there and got to go back home to Hamilton and he with his boxing club and fight there. So he's a tough battler and just like his uncle Tomahai and don't tell him he can't do something because he's more determined to do it then.
And you were married to the mother of your children.
Yeah.
Take us through that.
We were high school sweethearts and ended up marrying at 19. Had a double wedding with my sister and we were married for 28 years. We were together probably, say, 31 years all up. So, it's a long time and just over the years, things just got worse and worse. And I could never see myself without her. I was a kid when I met her, and it's just like that was my world. Like you're in that world, and just over the years, things just without me realizing, it was just things were getting worse. Manipulation, turning a lot of people against me, just subtle ways, just over time, just got worse and worse. And it was just things, for example, would be like, I'm massive on respect and for my children to respect me and don't be disrespectful. She would say in front of the kids, you need to earn their respect. It's not just given. So it's given a green light for the kids not to respect me because that's what their mum's saying. And it was just subtle things over time like that. And then my daughter was having a 16th birthday party and my wife come to me and said, she doesn't want you to be at a birthday party because they're drinking, because I wouldn't allow my kids to go to parties or drink alcohol. They're young, they're minor. And then anyway, she was saying that my daughter went to her and said she wanted her mum to tell me not to come to a 16th birthday party. And then she actually come to me and said it, like, who entertains that idea? What responsible parent would even entertain the idea to go to their husband and tell them not to be at their daughter's 16th birthday? Like, if that was me, I would have shut my daughter straight down and said, well, you're not having a birthday. Simple as that. But these were things that she just, done to, like, it was like a competition in a way too. Like, they love me more than you. You're the angry, negative guy. And it's like putting in their head that I'm this type of person. And like, it'll be, don't ask your father that, don't do that. And a lot of things were hidden from me. I wasn't told about a lot of things that went down. And I end up, when my kids got a bit older into high school, and I was working away in the mines, and just saw that, that mining, and when you got stuff going on at home in your way, and, I'm copping crap because it's like, oh, you don't have to do anything. You just go to work and go, and your meals are provided for you, and sock them in a holiday camp. And then it's just, and then when I got home, and I wasn't allowed to discipline the kids because it's like, I don't live there, like literally, because I work away. And don't come here upsetting the system I have with the kids. So I just wasn't allowed, I was undermined a lot in front of the children. Is where I end up losing respect for my own kids because of that. And then it's just went on a downhill thing. And then years later, she ended up being, drinking a lot. And that drinking just got worse, where she was a full-blown alcoholic, addicted to alcohol. Coming home from work, blind, rotten, drunk. Things like that. And the first time, I noticed that, shit's not good was I rang her work up and spoke to a supervisor and just, questioned why my wife's coming home from work drunk. She's going to the pub at lunch and going back to work, but you're coming home blind, run drunk. So how does that work? Her work had that culture. She's there with all her workmates. And then they end up calling into the office to talk to her about it. And her reason for why she drinks, she said to them, was because my husband bashes me. I don't bash her. I'm not a violent person. Going around lying, telling people I bash her. And emotionally abuse her and controlling and this and that. Just all these things. And then, just things like when she was drinking and there'd be other people around, she would flinch, like she's scared of me. I'm like, what are you doing? She's trying to portray that I'm that person. And it worked. As in, everyone thinks I was abusive and I'm this really angry, negative guy. And to an extent, I'll take accountability. Yes, I was. But I wasn't abusive, as in physically abusive, to her or my children. I had anger, because of stuff that went on in the marriage and stuff to do with my father and my upbringing, because your childhood is what shapes you. But like I said, my outlet, I took my anger out on the football field. I did have traits of my father where, I was snappy and short-tempered, but I wasn't physically boom, boom, like my father. And so, I do take accountability to the things, I was probably a bit harder on my children. But for me, it was tough love. It wasn't abusive. I wouldn't call it abusive. But I don't think I deserved the treatment and the label that I have to this day. Yeah, just to have your world turn against you, like everyone in your world is against you. And I'm constantly having to defend myself against being labelled a certain way. And it's like, then it turned into, threats of suicide. Because I'd be kicked out a lot, or if things were like bad at home or whatever, and I would get in the car and leave because it's just I'm being abused. I'm being abused, physically abused. She would hit into me and scratch me. Where I turn up to my mate's place to move in with him, and I've got a bruised eye and scratches on my face. He remembers that day I rocked up at his house, and she'll do things as we're going. She'd like literally they push your buttons because they want you to hit them, because they're going around telling everyone you're abusive. So they push your buttons to make you do it, to say, see, I told you, he is abusive. But I've never done it. But you know what she'd do? She'd stand there and she'd punch herself in the head. She'd go, hit me, hit me. I'll be there standing there going, you're crazy. And that's when I'd leave. I'd jump in my car and I'd go. Yeah, at times I'd stay with like mates or my sister down the Gold Coast, and I lived with her for times, different times, and other times I would be sleeping in my car, and it's either I'm getting kicked out or I'm escaping the toxic environment. But like I've got to take accountability. I kept on going back there, kept on going back to her.
Why?
Hope. I'm hoping that she will change. I'm hoping she will stop drinking, because I've seen like other people that I know, and I'd hear other stories of other people who have an addiction, whether it's drugs or alcohol, and they hit their rock bottom, and that rock bottom is their turning point to go, look, I'm losing everything in my life. I don't want to lose my family. And I was waiting. I was just waiting. I was hoping and waiting. But you know what I was doing? By waiting in hope, you're just suffering in hope. And that's what I'd done for years. I was just suffering in hope, hoping she would change, hoping things would get better. And it never does. You're waiting for them to hit their rock bottom for that turning point. Because I would research addiction to learn about it, to try and understand it, so I could deal with what I was going through and see signs of, okay, what, you know, and what it was is people would talk about hitting their rock bottom was their turning point. And whatever their rock bottom is, who knows? But she got a lot of deep rock bottoms, but never had that turning point. Would lie. Well, people with addictions lie to hide it. Lie to come up with excuses. It'd be a thing, right? Okay, an alcoholic. Oh, let's go out for dinner. Let's go to this tavern for dinner. It's just their way to go drink. You know, they're red flags. They're signs of an alcoholic manipulating you to go somewhere so they can drink. But they don't even need to do that. It's everywhere. There's bottles hiding in spots. It's in water bottles. Vodka will be in water bottles. To this day, I don't know the full extent of how much she was actually drinking. Hiding it from everyone. You know, but just, yeah, it's just how everything just got flipped on me, and I'm the reason why she drinks, or it's our children is the reason why she drinks, instead of their family holding her accountable for her actions and her behaviour. Everyone's blaming me or blaming even my own children, our children, for her behaviours.
You must have had a turning point or a rock bottom, as most people do in toxic relationships.
Yeah, like, you know, I had people like my sister helped me a lot through a lot of those times, and because she was divorced, and it just, yeah, it really rocked me, you know, like a couple of times I was separated, you know, and then like literally separated for a while. It wasn't just a night or two away or a few nights. It was, months. And when you go through pain, you self-reflect. Pain is what causes you to self-reflect and make change because you want to make things better. And then, so I went through those stages of self-reflect and to be a better person and changing and this and that. And then, and with that is holding yourself accountable for your part in it. It's not always just one-sided. You always contribute to it. Yeah, it was just like getting kicked out a lot. That was a turning point. Like, so for me, it was, and I was in my 40s. I was like 43, and I ended up moving in with my daughter, and she had separated from her partner, and so I moved in with her in a unit with my two grandsons, and I remember sitting in there, and I just felt humiliated because I'm having to rely on my daughter. Because I was feeling humiliated because I'm in my 40s and I should have had my shit together. And I literally said to myself, get your shit together. Because I had like bills or debts and this and that. So I would have been living from pay to pay if I was renting my own place. So I'm like, I'm not going to live like that. Anyway, so living with my daughter, I'm like, okay, I'm making change. So I started reading the book, Barefoot Investor, and I'd done everything to the T and started paying off my debts. And with that, another thing with where I was doing that, I had this notepad and I'll write down, I want to own my own home. I'll write that down and I'll put it under my pillow and go to sleep. And I'll do that every night. And I've done that for a good few months. And I was paying my debts off. It took me 3 years I think maybe 3 years, something like that. Yeah, well, I paid my debts off, and then when you're doing things like that, and I was also doing other things as in like started meditating, learning how to meditate, and started going down those avenues of meditation and like frequency and manifestation and things like that. So I was learning a lot about that. And from living with my daughter, I ended up getting back with my wife, moved back in with her. And then next thing I'm kicked out again. I'm out of home and I'm living in this hotel. And I lived in this hotel for a few months. And at this stage I had all my debts paid off. But I didn't have saving as deposit for a home. Long story, I was pre-approved for a home, to build a home. I remember through that time when I was living in this hotel, and I would like meditate daily. And when I'm waiting to hear back from the finance people and mortgage brokers, and I would meditate and just try and relax and manifest that to come. The next day, I'll get the phone call. Yes, you've been approved, or you've gone to the next stage of this. And I was just like, I was stoked. And then, so yeah, I got the house, and then from that time I read that book. 3 years later, I'm in my own home, brand new home built. And that's through meditation, manifestation, and actioning it. And that was my turning point there because I'm like, I've got to get my own home where I can never be kicked out of it. Whether I was renting or buying, I need to have my own home. And I want to provide a safe place for my children and grandchildren. If they ever need a place to come and stay, here, I wanted to create that. And I wanted to create a serenity, safe place for myself. That was my turning point. And that's what I've done to make it happen. And like I said, from way back, when I put my mind to something, I'm all in.
That's a lot of soul searching. That's a lot of inner healing and strength.
And with that come a lot of things, as in having to put boundaries in place. And that was another thing. And a lot of people mistaken boundaries as being controlling. Yeah, I am controlling. I'm controlling my life. And I've got to put these boundaries in there to protect myself And and that's what I've done. And I've lost, some family members who don't like my sort of attitude towards it or whatever, and just don't respect me and what I've gone through. And so I just, but this is what I had to do to protect myself, my health and well-being. I was over worrying about other people's feelings over my own. And when you get to that stages where you're just like, nah, I'm not living that life no more. And, it's about me and making sure I'm right. So, and then, even then when I got the house, and because when I got approved for the house and we got back together, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you one last opportunity type thing, as in we've got this house, and when we move in this, that's done. You're not a drinker no more, this and that. But yeah, that was again, false hopes. And that didn't work out either. So it just, and then I had this home, and I was in there, and I had no one. Like, no one was talking to me. My daughter was, a couple of my kids were, and a couple of kids weren't. And it was that thing as like, mum's side, dad's side type thing. It's just, And then like my kids wouldn't come here because it wasn't a home. Mum's not there, it's not a home. I'm your dad. Wherever I am is a home. But it's just, I don't know, the stuff that she drummed into their head, who knows?
At least you can say that you've tried everything, that you really...
I sure did. I went to the extreme. Like, when I say all in, I was all in trying to save my marriage. It's just, and then you just realise I'm stupid. I was stupid for trying to make it work and going back there all the time. And
how did you handle now being alone? How did you get through those days?
It was tough, man. My daughter helped me. She helped me. And I was in a bad state. And then people were like, why are you going into work? I shouldn't be working because it's a dangerous job. Concentrate. But anyway, like, it was just like, well, I couldn't sit around the house by myself doing nothing. It's just, I need to keep my mind busy. But then anyway, like, I was doing a lot of listening to motivational talkers and watching comedy to laugh. And I took guitar lessons to, something to concentrate on and kill time as well. And I was doing healthy things to move forward. And, I stayed away from alcohol because I didn't want to be that bloke in a bar or out with mates getting all emotional. So when I was like going through my real like down stage, and I just, and people would say, just, it'll come good. It just takes time. And I'm like, fucking, I'm over this. It's just like, a day is a week and a week is a month when you're like that. And you know that when you went through your separations and that, it's just hard and you can't sleep. You're up all night and then you don't eat, which is good because then you lose weight and you get fit again and you go into the gym and you're going hard out and you start looking good. And that's the good thing about it. And then, just with all doing that and meditation and just things get better. Things get better and you're just like, I wasn't looking for to have a girlfriend or anything like that to see anyone because I wasn't in the right frame of mind. I still had my baggage and I still had my demons type thing, and I wasn't ready, and I didn't want to put that into a relationship until I was ready, when I had moved on emotionally and was in a good headspace. But then it really, to be honest, it happened fairly quick. It took 3 months. Sometimes it could take 6 months or a year in that thing. But when you're doing the work to better yourself and get in a good headspace daily, it just, it would, obviously it does happen quicker. And that's when I met this beautiful lady. And then when I met you, it's just, it was so different, man. It's just so different. Your first things, it's like first things again, you know, being around your family, being so loving and caring. And, I hadn't had that in a long time, and really taken me in and and just because you're used to a certain way for so long, you've been in, and it was just having to like let go of a lot of things and taking the new stuff, and the new stuff was great. But it was hard to take it in because I wasn't used to it. I wasn't used to people being so nice to me. That was the thing. I wasn't like...
It's like unlearning those behavioural patterns and relearning again.
Exactly, yeah.
And that can be daunting.
Like, it's just weird. Like... I remember being in the car for the first time, and I'm like... And I felt bad because I'm in another woman's car. Like, oh, wow, what? You know, it takes time to adjust. And there's things that you would say to me. I was so uncomfortable. I felt uncomfortable. I remember when you would say to me, you're an amazing man. I've never had anyone say that to me in my life before. No, I just didn't know how to take it. You helped me just, to be myself again and be comfortable just to be myself. You know, there's a lot of sayings that you would say to me, you know, like let it hurt, then let it go. And that was a massive thing for me. Like, just, okay, embrace it and let it happen and just don't dwell on it. Let it go. What was another one you used to say to me?
I used to tell you that your feelings matter.
Yeah, that was what I was thinking of. That my feeling, and I've never had anyone say that to me before, ever. It was all about them, what they were going through, and you know, and being a man, and you know, a man with a family man, you're meant to be the rock of your family. You're the provider, and you know, you can't fold. You've got to hold this stature about yourself, because it's like if you crumble, then your wife will crumble, and your kids are going to be crumbling or feeling weak, or you know, so it's a snowball effect from there. I think anyway. Like, that's how men think. So they hide their insecurities and their worries because they don't want everyone else to worry. But then you can let your anger out from that. That creates anger, and then that's where that arises every now and again in whatever way that is for different people. And I can see, man, because I worked away in construction and in the mining industry and all that, and I know the life of FIFO with family life, and it's man, that's an hour, that's another episode pretty much, you know. And we done some research, and we looked up the top 3 industries in Australia in 2024. Was it
2024?
2024 yep. Industries with high suicide and mental health. And the number 1 industry for suicide is construction. Yeah.
Men working hard to provide. Yeah.
And then I remember when I was a steel fixer and I was a leading hand and I'd run the crew, and there's only 3 of us on site, and every day there's just one job. And then and then a couple of years later, one of the boys, Māori boys there, and he was always like talking about the stuff he's going through with his girlfriend and this and that, and he was going through a hard time. And we'll talk to him and this and that. But yeah, a couple of years goes by and then I hear that he killed himself. It's sad, man. Like, just, I don't know how we fix it. I don't know what the formula for it is. You know, and then number two, and I had no idea about number two, is farmers.
Yep.
That's insane. Like, yeah, that's terrible. And then the third one was emergency services.
Mm-hmm.
So they were the top three. But yeah, like, okay, yeah, that's bit of stats. That's me as a father and what I've done to change things around to be where I'm at today. But yeah, well, we haven't even spoken about the worst of the worst. Oh, far out. So when I was going back to what I said earlier about I had a sense about my father. When I was 19, 20, I got called to my aunties and uncles, and anyway, they told me that my father sexually abused my sisters and my cousins. And yeah, that affected me, obviously, pretty big, and affected our whole family, you know, my other brothers as well, and my cousins, and it just like, I was sick for months, like physically sick, throwing up, and it makes your mind go think a million things of your upbringing in your childhood and what girls, young girls or women come to the house and did anything happen to them, and that was going through my head. I had light bulb moments, and when I was saying, you know, my dad used to take me to soccer trainings and that, when I come off the training field and to go home and walk to the car, you know, I would see teammates' sisters there playing and doing cartwheels as young girls do. And my dad's just there, and the look of his eye watching these young girls, that was the first time I pretty much sensed that something wasn't right. But I never knew. And then, yeah, just there'll be things where we'd be sitting in the lounge room at home, and when I was a kid, and my sisters would be laying across the lounge, and their head would be on his lap. And I just looked at it thinking, that's not right. Because the look of his eyes, his look was he's enjoying it. He's a fucking sick prick, man.
And so you were told at 19, 20?
Yeah, around there, 19, 20.
Was he there? What happened in that moment?
No, he wasn't there. Like, he wasn't there. Obviously, because he knew I'll bash the shit out of him. He kept clear from me for months, you know. And then I remember telling my auntie and my mum and that I needed to tell Clay, my older brother, because at the time he was living in London, and they said no. They advised me not to tell him because he's on the other side of the world. So for me, it was like I was taking that burden on myself, being the oldest male there around there at the time, and to be there for my sisters. And although, you know, they've been dealing it for years, I went to the house there, like, I don't know, must have been next couple of days or whenever it was, and I've gone around there, and I was going off my nut. I was going off. I went there to bash him. He wasn't there, and then I went there to take my two sisters out of the house. Yeah, but then my mum took a turn and fainted, and then it's gone from me going off to me going, feeling bad, deflecting it away from me going off to her. Like, so when I was in New Zealand, I wanted to go to church college, and then my parents said, "No, we don't have the money for you to stay there," so they sent me home. 12 months later, they sent my sister there. My younger sister, she went to church college, and I just felt gutted. But see, so my sister, Leohuna, she was a hard kid to get along with. Like, we all fought with her as kids, and probably if out of everyone, me more so. Us two didn't get on at all. It's not until you're an adult and you find this stuff out, and then you know the reason why she was showing, she was displaying her anger for what was happening to her. And my sisters didn't know even that was wrong. Really, they didn't know. That's like, you're a kid. And they didn't like it happening to them. But for me, it's just a lot of things, light bulb moments that I noticed from when I was a kid, and then, you know, I never spoke to my sisters about it. When my brother did come back from London, he sensed something was wrong, and so anyway, I told him, and then he finally, someone thought of something fucking decent to do, to call a meeting with all the girls and ask if any of them want to press charges. So 3 of them did, went to the police station, put in statements, and he went to jail for 12 months. But with that, it was on a farm. I wouldn't even call that a jail. And it just, like, even going back, it's just because we're brought up as Mormons, and, you know, we were disciplined to do right and do this and do that. And the one person telling you how you should live your life is a fucking pedophile to his own daughters and nieces. Like, that's just sick, man. And then we found out that it came out years earlier. My mum knew. My auntie and uncle knew years earlier that he was a pedophile. They didn't take us out of the house. They didn't kick him out and this and that. Like, yeah. And then this is when the timeline comes into place where things happen, where you realise why they've done it. So when I was in New Zealand for my grandfather's tangi, and I was staying in Palmerston North, and I heard that my cousin's husband had bashed my dad. And I just thought because he was a dickhead. But he bashed him because he found out that he molested his wife when she was younger. So he went round there with 2 other people and bashed the shit out of him. But he's a giant. This fella's a giant. He wouldn't even need anyone else with him. He's like 6'7". But he didn't bash him enough for my liking. You know, and that's why I turned against the church too. Like, I didn't like the church, because then I heard that they went and told the bishop of the church and nothing was done. But they can't do anything, you know. And then years later, I hear that bishop was a pedophile himself. And that's why I just hated going around the church. It's just like, it's everything that I experienced. No one looked after the kids. No one saved the kids. And that's why I think with me as an adult, it shaped me, as in, like, knowing that it was just like, I won't let people sweep shit under the carpet. I'll expose you. If you're going to lie and do this and that, I just hate people like that. I can't stand it. And then whatever the reasons were, you know, family shame or why they don't tell people, who knows. But I was just, for a lot of years, I just couldn't get why no one saved us, or my sisters.
What did your mum do after?
That pissed me off even more, because mum was with him, still with him, took his side. And then, like, there was this Christmas where he was in jail, but I think he was due to come out in like a month or so. And then we've had Christmas Day down the Gold Coast at my brother's house, and, you know, I had a few drinks under my belt, and they were talking about him coming out, and, you know, he's just still with mum, and I just went off at everyone. I was just going off. Every sibling, I just went off at them, gave it to them. Because they were like, just, I wouldn't say they supported it, but they were too worried about mum's feelings. They didn't want to hurt mum's feelings. And mum played on that. And she would guilt trip us all the time. She'd throw them in our face to be part of family events and this and that, family, gatherings. And I detached myself from the family pretty much for a lot of years, and I wouldn't go to family things, and because I knew he was there and I didn't want to be around it, and I wanted to protect my kids. Like it affected me massive because I didn't change my daughter's nappies. I didn't want to bath. I wouldn't bath them. I avoided doing as much as I could for my daughters because I was so ashamed and embarrassed that my dad was a pedophile that people would think I was a pedophile. So I never put myself in a situation where I was alone with a young girl or a baby or anything. I avoided it. I thought that I might get accused of being a pedophile because my father was a pedophile. I never told anyone. And that was used against me. My wife would say to me all the fucking time, and she knew I hated it. So you're just like your father. And by her saying that, she's calling me a fucking pedophile. That's why I was fucking angry, probably, because I was getting treated like that. Just they push your buttons for the things that they know you really can't stand. And that's like low blow shit for me. Just how the snowball effect for everyone in the family that it affects. Like obviously it directly affected my sisters and my cousins. But for me it was I don't know what the word for it is, but like just it still affects and then affects my children and their grandchildren and so on. I was determined to stop that cycle with me. I wasn't going to put up with no shit. I spoke to my kids when they were little. When I told them straight away, man, straight up, pedophile is someone that touches your rude bits, and it's wrong. And if any stage, because mum was still with them, you're not to be around them at all. Don't go kiss him, hello, nothing. Stay clear from him. And not just like I taught them, any man could be like that. Like if you sense that something's wrong, you don't have to kiss him hello. Because in our culture, that's what you got to do. You got to go and kiss aunties and uncles hello when you see them and greet them and goodbyes. But I tell my kids, no, if you don't feel comfortable, don't have to do it. And I'm glad I protect my kids from sexual assault. They're all adults now, and they've end up having other traumas though, probably other traumas. But for me, at least I saved them from that.
How's your relationship with your siblings?
Yeah, well, I've always been like the black sheep of the family, and because I'm outspoken and and like I'm still labelled as that angry, negative guy. Yeah, it's just like I'm not wasting my energy on trying to defend myself and explain myself, and it's just this is how I feel. That's as far, and I'll say that once. And however you respond to it or react to it is on you, and it's not my problem. I'll just if that's how you want to be, that I will.
Let me ask how your sisters are doing.
Yeah, they're it's an ongoing. It's so much. I don't know how they've gone on with life with it shoved in your face all the fucking time. because mum was shoving it in their face. But it's totally different now. It's totally different scenario now where they're no longer together, my parents, and there was a shift when a lot of things went down, probably, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago now, and it's just, there was a massive big shift, and they're dealing with their things, even with, like, say, mum as well, because, just a lot of things where they told mum when they were little girls, and mum told them that they're lying, stop being stupid. So they tried to tell their mum when they were little girls. It's just, I've spoken to a couple of my sisters about what they went through recently, just with us doing this podcast, and they'll share their stories when they're ready on our podcast. And but I just asked them a couple of questions, and I just asked them how old they were when it first happened, and they were 5. 5 years old, little girl, being abused by their dad sexually. And it went on till they were around 16, 17. That's how long it went for. And through that time, mum, adults, found out. And it kept on happening. Another sort of when I was been talking to my sisters about what they how it started and all that with them, and when my other sister's June, she told me something that because I was like how I said I was being against the church and didn't like the church because of what we went through with that. Like June was, as a kid, with her being sexually abused, and she just wanted to kill herself. Little girl. 7 and 8-year-old kid wanting to kill themselves because of what her father was doing to her. Yeah, she just, and then she said to me, the church was the one thing that kept her alive, that she didn't go through with killing herself, because the church teachings was that it's wrong and you shouldn't do that, and the other things of the church, teachings of the church, and she goes, it was the church that saved me. So when she said that to me, I straight away I just changed my thought about the church. Like, if it wasn't, my perception of the church was totally different to hers. I was blaming the church and everyone in the church for what they didn't do to help. And then there's my sister who it saved her. So then I was thankful. Because if it wasn't for that, she would have killed herself. Yeah, and I broke down crying when she told me that. Because you never really know what they're going through. Yeah, but she's doing great now. She's married and got a daughter, and she's in a good space. It's what they've gone through, and then I just my other sister, I was talking to her, and she used to always stay at our cousins a lot on the weekends, and she used to come home and crying, and because she was getting teased and mistreated over there by our cousins. You know, sometimes you just, and then I was always like, well, why do you even go there? Don't go there if you're coming back like this. But now when you find out the poor little girl, you'd rather get teased than get sexually abused. And that's why they sent her off to church college, because she was causing trouble, because she's been sexually abused and she was showing it in anger and other ways. So they shifted her off to church college. Instead of sending that fuckwit out of the house, get rid of him, they send their daughter, my sister, over to New Zealand, which was, she loved it though, you know, she loved going there. But get rid of that bastard. It's just like, when you like think, fuck, and stupid. But then, you know, when you look back at it and you go, okay, look, if they went to the police, we would have all been separated and put into foster homes. And who knows where our path would have taken us. And I wouldn't have grown up with my brothers and sisters. I probably wouldn't even really know them. And things would have gotten worse, probably in the foster system. So when you think of it like that, you probably think, oh, fucking lucky things worked out the way they did. But there's always ways, man. There's ways. If the bishop was a decent person, not a fucking pedophile, the church would have helped the family to try and keep us children together. Somehow, there's always a way, man. There would have been a way. But, yeah, no use dwelling over things like that in the past now. What's happened in the path it took. You just like, you know, you accept it, but it doesn't mean you take it that way. And for me, that's why I find it hard when people forgive. I can't forgive it. I can't forgive my dad for that. And that's why I wanted to do this. Because I want to learn, have other people share what they went through and how they dealt with it. How they healed. And if, you know, just how I don't understand how people can forgive like people like that. I want to understand it. I want to know how they do it. So it's not taking up my energy. And I just want to try and help people that have gone through other, you know, just stuff, and other people watch it, and whatever someone's gone through and how they may have that breakthrough moment might help someone else have their breakthrough moment. Because I know I've been struggling all my life for that. And, you know, with what people have been way worse than what me personally I've gone through. My upbringing was great compared to a lot of other people, man. I've heard a lot of shit, like a lot of people's stories, and I can't believe what other people have gone through, man. And they're such great people. And, they've got every excuse in the book to like gone the other way, and they've like picked themselves up and they've like conquered through it, like literally conquered it. And it's amazing to hear people's stories and see how they done it. Like far out, man, that, you can get through it and be great.
Well, you are doing great.
I think, even when you have your breakdowns, and I think that's just part of the process of healing and talking about it. And that's what people aren't doing. They're not talking about what they went through, and whoever it is, whether it's a counsellor, psychologist, psychiatrist, and your safe person, good friends, family members, or whoever that person is. You need to have that person where you can share it with, and without judgment. Yeah.
So where you're at today?
Yeah, well, it's just it's great, it just being with you, and you're so loving and caring, and I have a good relationship with my children and my grandchildren, and you don't need a big circle of people. The smaller the better, No drama. Less drama the better. I've had too much drama and too many years, and it's just chaos. It's always just chaos, and the stuff with Dad and my mum, and just it's just unfortunately, with my mum, a lot of my siblings have sort of woken up to that mum didn't save them or look out for them, or didn't have the children as number one priority. But yeah, I think it's they're dealing with it. I just really want to like move forward with a lot of things, and like we have created, and what we're doing here, and with our podcast. A friend of mine just told me I should start a business. He noticed that like when I put my mind to something, I'm all in with what I was doing there, and he just said, "Man, you're wasting your energy. You need to put it onto yourself. You need to start your own business where it's going to help you." And I just said to him, "You're right." And then that same day I come home from work and I told you, "We're going to start a business." And you're like, "What?" And I don't know yet, but we're going to start a business. I know what it is, but we're doing it. And then we went on some a few business seminars, and I was hoping to be inspired by going to them for an idea for a business. And I just didn't know, and I was doing a lot of, listening to podcasts and reading books about business and this and that, and trying to get inspired of ideas. And it took a while for us to come up with it, and it was that light bulb moment I had. And I just remember I was riding into work one day on the motorbike, and it was like dark, and the bridges, and I saw bridges, overpass bridges going under, and it looked so cool. And it was just like, that's it, bridge. Burning, burning bridges was your idea. And then, I just want bridges to connect people, and burning bridges to burn toxic things out of your life. And then that's when I said, let's do a podcast about mental health, about what I've gone through in my life, and we can share that and have people come on and share their stories, and so people can learn how to, because I just when I went through different things I was going through with my marriage and this and that, and I just felt like I didn't know. I wasn't educated. I didn't have the knowledge of how to get through it, and I just I was winging it. And if I had something like this, where people are talking about things that they've gone through and what they've done to get through it, man, that would have helped me. It would have cut a lot of hassles and times of a lot of crap, like, yeah. So, and then, yeah, that's how we sort of come up with the idea to do a podcast, and yeah, and it's pretty cool because like that mate now, like seeing what we've done, and he's spinning out, eh?
Yeah.
He teared up when he come over here and saw our studio,
and he's doing his business and
Yeah.
thriving, and
yeah,
it's
he's
just
doing
good to
great.
see you both.
Yeah, we feed off each other, and
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, it's good to have people like that. And when you get into a space like this, you need to put yourself amongst like-minded people, and that's how you learn from them and get ideas from them as well, and give them ideas, and or say, yeah, and it's cool. I love being in the space of what we're doing, and it's challenging, very challenging, and like I've got no idea with a lot of things to do with computers and this and that, but yeah, just learning all that and has been challenging, but yet rewarding.
It's very
learning
rewarding.
new skills, and things are going great for us, and who knows where this takes us, and I really want this to take off to help people. And yeah.
What's a life lesson that you've learned, or what's a saying that you maybe live by each day?
A life lesson that I've learned. That's a good question. Didn't know that was coming. A life lesson I've learned. Well, now I think of it, it's easy to be true to yourself, be authentic. That's it. Just be true to yourself and authentic. Because when you're truly being you in the true essence of yourself, that's a loving self. That's empathy self. So people might say, oh, be true to yourself, and people are very judgmental, people are this, and people have those negative things about them. But when you live the true essence of your true authentic self, that means that you are living with love, empathy, gratitude, because that's the true essence of who you are, of everyone. But people just get sidetracked with external things and outside things and beliefs, and we're all brought up with certain beliefs from our childhood and our upbringing, and some of them are good and some of them aren't. And then as you grow and become an adult, you cipher off what you want to take those beliefs, certain beliefs. And I think that's what people get stuck in those beliefs from their childhood and think that's the only way, as in being wired and hardwired. And once you make the work and make the effort to see things differently, and you become your true self and your true essence. And when you do the work for that, that's when the magic happens.
And if your younger self was listening to this, little Taimana, what would you say to him?
Just before I'll give you the answer to that, like I remember being a little kid, and I used to do things. So I could be in the shower and I would be soaping myself down, and then I'll put the soap bar back on the shelf thing. And I instantly think to myself, I will never have that time back again to do that. I used to do that all the time. I was like 7, 8 years old, and I'm doing things in real time, and then instantly I'll say, I will never do that again in that time, in that moment. I was always like that as a kid. And that's something like I've never said that, but I always thought that when I'm doing things. I will never have this time again to do that. But yeah, I'll be doing the same thing tomorrow night. I'll be in the shower and I'll be soaping myself, drying myself, and I will never do that again in that time.
So how do you read into that now, saying that?
For me, that's me being so in tune with the energy and the universe, and I was always doing things like that. Everything, a lot of the times when I've done things, and straight away I thought, I am never going to do that again in that time. And it's been in the moment. It's been aware. That's what that is. I didn't even know it. But that's the way I just thought. And I'm like, I'm a kid right now, and I'm never going to be this kid again.
You are like that to this day. You are very present. So when you are in a room, that's where you are. When you're in a conversation, that's where you are. And that's one of the things that drew me to you when we first met. Because a lot of people don't live like that.
I wasn't like that in the classroom. I was wishing I was out playing. I wasn't present when I was in school. But you're right. I am like that to this day. I'm very present, and I like to give people that attention that they deserve. You know, not sitting there and you're trying to talk to me and I'm like on my phone, fiddling around on Facebook or whatever else. Like, that is so rude. And I don't like being that person. You know, when I like to give you my full attention. And present, I'm glad you noticed that.
Of course I noticed that. I notice everything.
But yeah, that's pretty weird, eh?
Yeah, that is weird.
And I'll just do certain things and I'm like, on purpose. So if I'm like, I'll have this drink right now, a drink of water. And I've done that on purpose. And I'm like, I will never do that again. In that time. That time's gone. Doesn't exist. And that's how I thought as a kid.
It's like that moment's gone.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And that's
you can't get it back.
Yeah. Yep. And I knew that as a kid, a little kid. And I'd done things intentionally to just say that to myself. I'll never do that again.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's when we say, you know, like, talk about stuff that you've never said before. I didn't even think of that until that very moment. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So back to the question of the answer.
Yes.
Of
if your younger self was listening to this, little Taimana, what would you say to him?
You're the man. No, I would like, you know, I'll just love him and just hug him, and I just say something like, no matter what you go through, everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be great. Just take those bad moments and those bad times as learning, because everything's going to work out. And just be love and kind to people. Yeah, I think that's it. When I even think about that, I'm like, he knows where I'm at now. Like, my younger self was watching me and going, yeah, man, you done it. Thank you. I just don't want to be in retirement with regrets. And that's it.
Yeah. I think too, when we started this podcast, it was just about helping people and helping ourselves and learning, other people learning, and just being true to that.
Yeah.
And you can't go wrong, right? When you're just doing it for the goodness, here to learn and help.
Truly, I just think to myself, I'm being true to myself. I'm doing what I really believe in, and I have finally a purpose that not only to help other people, but it's helping myself. And I just let things happen. Whatever happens, happens from that. But with the right intention, which I know I have, helping people, I want to understand how other people have done it. Well, I'm like at an ages where I'm like, whatever. I don't care what you think. If you've got a negative opinion or what I'm doing, well, that's your issue, not mine. I'm still here doing what I'm doing, and I'm loving doing it.
Well, thank you. I think that's everything. That's all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, great.
Okay.
And thank you, Renee. You have been so great in this venture and supporting me in everything I do and decide to do, whether you like it or not. And, I know this has been very challenging for you. And it's just, but I do appreciate you so much and all the work that you do and how you help me and support me. And that's what a true relationship is about. We all have faults, and I know I've got plenty of them, and you love me with my faults. And, I love you, and thank you very much. And thank you for this episode done.
I love you too. I got you.
Yeah, so that's this episode. So our first episode done. Thank you so much. This has been so very challenging. And but thank you for watching and listening. And please like this on YouTube and whatever platform you're watching this on, and please like and subscribe, please. And because I've gone through all this crying, just press that, please.
Listen to you.
I just cried my heart out. Oh yeah, but honestly, I appreciate those watching it, and please share this, and anyone that you may think is or that is going through something, and get them to just follow us and watch us, and there may be a story that you may be able to relate to, or your friend or family member may be able to relate to it. And these are just my life experiences, and we're going to do your episode soon too, Renee. So you're going to hear from Renee's story as well. And this is great. Thank you so much. Love you, Renee, and love yous all. Laters.
Peace.